back to Bachelor Buzz, the best place to come for recaps on your favorite show and the latest in Bachelor Nation news. We're your hosts, Arena.
And Julia, and we're really happy to announce that we have a guest speaker today, my dear friend Natalie of more than 12 years. Our friendship has lasted. Natalie is 32. She lives in Central PA, right outside of the capital of Harrisburg. She lives with her husband and her three cats, and she is expecting her first baby, a little boy at the end of April, who I'm really excited about because now my little boy will have another little boy bestie. Yay! So welcome, Natalie.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here and chat with you guys.
Yeah, we're really excited to have you. Some of her little hobbies and interests are she loves gardening and she loves reality TV. Now, she is not a Bachelor watcher of this season. You know about Bachelor, right, Natalie? What other shows are you interested in?
Yeah, so I'm definitely a Vanderpump girl. I'm really
Mhm.
excited for their new show that they have coming out. So definitely was following like all of that drama. I've been watching Love
Uh-huh.
and Hip Hop for years, so I like all of that. Um, Definitely, I've been into Zeus Network too the last few years. So I
Hmm.
don't know how familiar your listeners are with that. It's kind of a newer network, but it's kind of like BET, like fully without rules, almost like an
Mm.
HBO kind of like level, very like adult content. But it's like Bad Girls Club. There's some dating shows
Oh.
on it. And if you remember, like I Love New York from
Yeah.
like Flavor Flav, like she's
Oh my
on some
God,
of the shows on
yes.
there. And it's a lot of love and hip hop people too. So if you like love and
Okay.
hip hop, there's a lot of fun crossover from that. And Nick Cannon's Wild and Out. So he's on there now too. And he
Love
has like a
him.
show. Yeah. So it's a lot of it. It's just a lot of it's kind of ratchet content, maybe, but it's all in good fun. My husband and
It's
I love to watch
fun.
it together. We actually watch it together.
Yes.
So that's
Yeah, it's
probably
so
my
fun.
top things.
Yeah. So Natalie has joined us today to take a deep dive into the star signs and the astrology aspect of the final three, Daisy, Kelsey, and Rachel. And I guess maybe we could chat a little bit. Why do you like astrology so much, Natalie? And how did you get
Um,
into it? How did you do it?
Yeah, so I went my whole life like not being into it at all and kind of growing up in a religious family, the perspective was like this is all kind of bullshit, it's not real and everything, but it was I guess like 7, 8 years ago now. I guess I kind of became friends with like a new community of people that were like very involved in it and kind of educated me. I didn't know anything about astrology or tarot reading or anything.
Hmm.
And it really changed my life, honestly, in a lot of ways, in terms of like
Wow.
opening up a lot of greater understanding about myself and why I seek out certain relationships, love
Mhm.
relationships, and even friendships where conflicts can arise.
Yeah.
The more you get into it, you really just can't deny that the reality of these connections and these patterns of behavior. I mean, astrology has been around for so, so long. It's been guiding
True.
how people think and look at themselves and their relationships for like millennia. So it's like there obviously is some degree of truth to it. Like those of us who are interested in it,
Yeah.
it's not just like for no reason. Like if you really dig
It's not just
into
like a trend right now. Yeah.
no, no, like I know it's like funny to make fun of it, and it's definitely not something that people should just write off their personality traits of like, oh, I'm just like this because I'm an Aries or because whatever. So I
Right.
definitely get like laughing at it, to that
Yeah.
extent for those perspectives. But it really is like when you dig into your birth chart more, it's the accuracies are like scary. I mean, you can't even
Wow.
deny it. So it really like there's no negative about it. It just helps you understand yourself a lot more. I feel like I
Cool.
understand myself better and like how I interact with people.
Wow, that's
Well,
cool.
we're really excited to have you on here, like Julia was saying, because I was telling her before, like in terms of astrology, I feel like you just said, that there are personality traits of ours that can relate to what that sign is. And like I'm a Gemini, and I definitely think there's things about me that match a typical Gemini. But then there's aspects of Geminis, and I'm like, well, that's not really me. But I think
Right.
there is some truth in how we do connect with people and seek out certain people for these relationships, and that it can not be 100% a determining factor if whether it's going to work out or not, because obviously the individual is a big part of that. But I
Yeah.
think there's something to it. Like maybe there's a reason why you're clashing. Maybe there's a reason why you have these issues come up.
Yeah.
So it's exciting to see what you think based on this and where these women are
Yes.
going to fall and what actually happens and if that means anything too. Like, I don't know, long
Yes.
term for these couples.
Yeah. And I think what you
Yeah.
said was so important about it, just like how you maybe fit some things and not
Mm.
others. I think that's important when we talk about this because we're really just talking about the sun sign. So there may be cases with all of these women as we talk about these signs where people are like, oh, but that doesn't necessarily fit me or, whatever. It's definitely not a blanket fit like for anybody. But still, I think there's those overall tendencies and it's still fun to speculate.
Yeah.
Yes. And you mentioned how we're only talking about the sun sign as opposed to like the moon sign, right?
Yes.
Um, so that is so that our viewers know, that is because we could not, shockingly, get the birth
Yeah.
times of these women.
Yeah.
We probably couldn't get all three. Maybe we get one, but all three. But we were also just kind of like, we're a new podcast. We don't want to push things, that
Yeah.
we don't know if they would respond with that.
Yeah.
But
Be
at the end of
weirded
the
out by us.
day, like I think that this is going to be so valuable because, if I want to know my horoscope, I'm like, Alexa, what's my horoscope today? Like
Right.
I go to the like most random, easiest path, like the
Yeah.
path of least resistance. So I feel like Natalie, you probably have like a better source, a better like background in knowing like what is actually an accurate reading versus not,
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
that's why I'm excited to hear what you say. And then another thing I wanted to mention really quick is just like I love that you mentioned that like people seek out or like why do I seek out these certain relationships? I think that's really interesting because in The Bachelor, they're not really seeking him. They're not like they don't know it's him, right? Like
Okay.
they do,
Mhm.
maybe they hear, oh, it's Joey, but like
Right.
they're not signing up because they know it's him.
Mhm.
So it's kind of just like the chips fall where they may. And
Yeah.
then it's like who gravitates for him. I don't know. So I just think that's kind of interesting. So yeah, we're just really excited to hear what you have to say. Delve
Yeah.
into
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
So who should we start with, Arena?
Daisy.
Daisy, of course. Okay. We won't say why yet. So
No.
again,
Okay.
Natalie doesn't
Okay.
really, she hasn't been following it, but she has looked into it.
Yeah.
Obviously, she did the star sign analysis, but we will fill in the blanks at the end, and then we'll hear her prediction for the top two. Who you think the top
Yes.
two will be?
I
The
definitely.
winner and the runner up. Okay. Daisy,
Okay.
let's hear it.
Okay. So you want me to go?
Yeah. So
Okay.
Daisy is September 8th, 1998.
Yeah, so Daisy is a Virgo like me. So she would be like, so immediately reading it, I was like, oh, she and I are probably similar, although they say like August versus September Virgos are drastically different. So like I'm an August Virgo, my
Oh.
sister's a September Virgo. She's just way more tightly wound and like all the aspects about being organized and just
Oh.
being a planner, not at all being spontaneous, that all kind of fits like the September Virgo. So that's what's
Mhm.
really interesting. Daisy is actually my pick for being who's probably least compatible with him, because he
Interesting.
is a Gemini, so he's a Gemini like you, Arena. So
Yeah.
Geminis and Virgos are not super compatible. If you actually see them on the
Mm.
zodiac, they're kind of in opposition to each other. So they would just struggle a little bit more to like be on the same page. And I think there's a couple things. One key thing is that we're both indecisive, like both signs,
Mhm.
Geminis and Virgos, both tend to ruminate over decisions forever before finally making them. So obviously that could be a little bit frustrating in a relationship where two people are constantly
Yeah.
going through not being able to make a decision. Virgos are also, like we like to say, like we're not very spontaneous, we're not very carefree, in that aspect of our personality anyway. Other signs that we have would hopefully help balance that out.
True.
But people who have a lot of Virgo placements tend to struggle with things not being organized or well planned. Gemini is very free spirited. Not to say that you guys, aren't organized and
I
don't
know.
have it together in any way, but a Gemini is much more likely to want to take a spontaneous trip, want to
Oh.
not
Mhm.
plan things and not maybe be so organized and also change their mind about things. Us Virgos tend to not really like inconsistency at all, and Geminis can switch it up quite a bit. So because of all of
Wow.
that, I would say she's probably my bottom pick for who would be most compatible with him. She's
That's
probably a great
so
girl though,
interesting.
fellow Virgo, but I
Yeah.
don't see her being the most compatible one.
Right. Like this analysis, definitely nothing knocking anyone's character, but I think that's
No.
really interesting,
Yeah.
Natalie. We're starting strong. This is so, did
I
you see me and
know.
Arena? We are both like,
I know.
ooh, we'll tell you why after. And I think
I
our
was gonna
viewers
say, I'm like,
already
am I
know
close? Like,
why.
I can't wait to like find out because I did like high level research, but I don't know like actually
Yeah.
how it's playing out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. Well, you want to do Rachel next?
Yeah, let's
Let's
do
do
Rachel.
Rachel. Okay. So
Okay,
Rachel
so
is January 28th, 1997. Go ahead.
yeah, so Rachel is an Aquarius. So she, I think, is my number two. It's actually pretty tight with her and Kelsey, which one I thought was better. I think she's going to be my number two, but she also has a pretty good chance of being pretty compatible with him. They're both air signs, so they have that in common.
Mm-hmm.
Tend to be driven by their mental desires and level of intellectualness that they have. Both are
Yep.
disruptors, not being afraid of change in the terms of kind of being the change and being the starter of that. Although Aquarians would tend to dig their heels in more. So they may not be as versatile as a Gemini, and that could potentially cause some dissent there. Aquarians can also be described as, like, my nephew Zane is an Aquarius, and I always describe him as being very quirky, very eccentric people. They
Mm-hmm.
can come off as a little shy initially, but once like you get to know them, they're definitely talkers, especially about things they care about. And Geminis are definitely talkers. So ultimately, they could have that really good intellectual connection. But the Aquarians, like, maybe inability to be as malleable as the Gemini is, that could
Mm-hmm.
potentially cause some issues. I also don't know how strong their sexual connection would be, at least off the bat. Theirs would definitely be more mental, I would think, than it would be physical. So just kind of being able to have that balance. I don't
Yeah.
know, with her and him, how that really has played out, but mentally they should definitely be on par with one another. It's just, would she be able to keep his interest, I guess, someone as, versatile as the Gemini over time and kind of needing that excitement and that change.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that the Aquarius would necessarily do that for him, but she'd certainly be more easygoing and like going with the flow than the Virgo would be. Like, definitely.
Very
Wow.
interesting. Once again, our faces lit up because we're just like,
Yes.
oh my God, this is so accurate. Like,
I can't
you're
wait to
doing
hear
great. This
about
is
it.
awesome, Natalie. All right, Kelsey,
Kelsey.
let's hear it.
Okay.
She is April 17th, 1998.
Okay, Kelsey is an Aries, so I can also
Me,
relate
I'm
to
an
her a little bit.
Aries.
You're an Aries sun, and I'm an Aries moon. So Aries does
Hmm.
actually dictate a decent part of my personality too.
Cool.
She is my top pick for, I think, who, as long as their relationship can get out of the initial like fast and bright phase, because they're definitely going to have a strong sexual connection and a strong mental connection, like right off the bat. It would
Yeah,
just be a matter of, especially for the Gemini man, is his attraction gonna hold as long as hers will? The Aries
gotcha.
female definitely, like, once she's into it and she's connected, she doesn't really need anybody else. The Gemini
Yeah,
man is can, be very easily distractible or, change his mind. But the more dominant, intense personality type of the Aries would probably be a really good fit for him, would definitely excite him. Aries are, they're pretty motivated people. They're strong leaders. They're not afraid to say how they feel. And they're also a lot of fun. Like, Aries really know how to let loose and have fun. I know with my personality being primarily a Virgo, it's definitely my Aries moon that is like
yeah,
that helps me break out of my shell and be more
yeah.
spontaneous. That's definitely the Aries like coming out in me. So his Gemini sun should really respond really well to that. And
Hmm.
also, like I said, strong sexual connection with them probably too. They're probably like right off the bat be a very intense relationship. There probably would be a social couple, would be planning trips, doing fun things together. So I definitely see them having a lot of fun if they could make the relationship long lasting.
Oh
Wow.
my gosh.
Oh,
Okay.
claps for Natalie. That was
Yes.
so good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ooh, where to start? All right, I'll talk about Kelsey, you talk about Rachel, and then I don't know,
Okay.
talk about Daisy together.
Okay.
All right, Kelsey, first off, spot on, Natalie.
Yes.
They are social, they are sexually compatible.
Oh
If
my
you
gosh.
watched our or if you listen to our last episode,
Uh-huh.
viewers, final fantasy, what is it? The
The
fantasy.
fantasy
What did we
suite.
call it? Falling
Oh,
or the
falling
fantasy,
for the
right? That
fantasy.
was our last episode. Okay. We literally, Arena literally said that Kelsey and Joey seem like newlyweds.
Mhm.
Like that boom, that spark, that like, oh, they're so cute. But like we were thinking like, it's kind of like at the beginning of a relationship where it's like really, really strong and we hope that it can turn into something long lasting,
Yeah.
and then just like continuing what you said, like the just like socialness and having fun. They are the one couple I think that's had a date. They've had two dates now
Two.
where it's like them just walking around a city, doing fun
Yeah.
stuff. All the other dates are like
Yeah.
planned, set
Mhm.
up by production, but their dates
Yeah.
are just so chill and fun. So
Mhm.
I think that was really spot on. So well done.
Yes.
Do you want
Oh,
to talk about the
yes.
Rachel one, Arena?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So with Rachel, definitely what you said made sense because they definitely click, and we saw that in the beginning of the season. We see that there is chemistry, but we don't see as much of that like sexual chemistry that we see with like Kelsey.
Yeah.
With Kelsey, it's like he's like really into her, and they
Yeah,
are,
like he
and
put her
she's
on a
into him.
counter and made out with
Yes.
her.
Oh
Like
my gosh.
it was
It
like
was an
That's
oh
that
my
we were all
Harry
word.
just
men
like,
behavior.
Oh my word.
we're like, I think we had to change our rating to explicit for that.
Yes, because
We're
it
like,
got spicy.
yeah,
Um,
Joey. Okay.
but like with Rachel, it definitely does seem intellectual, and they both have a chill vibe about them. I mean, he lived in
She's
Hawaii for
so
a
chill.
while, and she's from originally from Honolulu, Hawaii, and they have that kind of like they are really compatible in that way and complement each other. And I feel like I don't know, it's just like you said, would that sign really hold the Gemini man? Like, and would it be as like something where he wouldn't want to move on or something? And like I said, there's nothing, like we said, this is nothing to the people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rachel's amazing. She was my favorite.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I honestly did not think she would be the one
Right.
based on what we saw. And we also didn't see a lot of them.
Yeah,
But
But
like
like,
Chill's not
yeah.
necessarily going to work for the Gemini man long term. He's definitely
As,
going to want more excitement.
yeah.
He's going to like that she's go with the flow, but that's not going to hold his interest long term. You know, they say like about Gemini men, like if they're done with a relationship, they're moving on that day. Like they're on Tinder or Bumble that evening,
On The
ready to meet their
Bachelor.
next
The
person.
Bachelor.
Right? Exactly. Exactly. So is he
Wow.
Italian too? Is he also Italian?
Yes,
Yes.
full.
Yeah, I
Yes.
could. I'm Italian. I could talk about that also too. So that aspect of his personality, definitely too. Italian
Yeah.
Gemini man. He's moving on. He wants excitement, like definitely. So I just, yeah, I was not feeling that she was the top choice for him.
Yeah.
And like the last episode again, they really talk about it where like she's, in the top three, but she feels like she's not where the other two are.
Mhm.
She feels she's playing catch up. And I think what you said is kind of true, where it's like, I mean, it's not so much that she didn't hold his attention, but she kind of held back. And now we're at the point where like, is she holding his attention?
Yeah.
And that's
Mhm.
the kind of issue they're working through right now.
Yeah. And you know, they're
So
both air signs. So like typically your most compatible match is not typically the same sign as you or the same within
yeah,
the same house even because there's a lot more like yes, you're very similar, but one, there's a lot more opportunities to clash because of that similarity. And two, you also might be better as friends, especially in this situation where the sexual component's just not there. There may
yeah.
be they're bonding really well as potential
They
friends, but
laugh,
that's
they have
yeah.
banter, but it's like, but you know what though? This is interesting, Natalie, and we are gonna put another episode about like kind of why production is not
Mm.
favoring Rachel's story. I don't know if you saw, but she is what is the AAPI, right? Asian
Yeah, her
American
mom's from
Pacific
the
Pacific
Islander.
Islanders,
Philippines
yeah,
Yeah.
and
Pacific
her
Island.
dad
Yeah.
is
She's
black and
half
Arab.
black.
Okay.
So like she is a person of color, and Bachelor, the franchise, is not showing her story the same way. Like Arena caught that there was
Yeah.
a clip of them making out in a commercial, but at the episode they didn't show it.
In
See, that's
So there may be more of a sexual component
Yeah,
to them.
they're just
yeah,
not
And I
showing
think
it.
there must be because
there
how could she
is.
get this far? Right.
Yeah.
But
Because he's
like
Yeah.
sexual.
what we've
Like he's
seen,
really,
yeah, what we've
yeah.
seen
Yeah.
and what you're saying. I mean, what you're saying though, I think still probably is true because the other girls are just like, very I don't know, but again, like we can only know what production shows us.
Right.
Right.
But
Exactly.
what you're saying, like I do think it might make sense if it is a little bit like
Yeah.
how it's being portrayed. So I just wanted to say
Yeah.
that.
That's
But
interesting. Yeah, that's
it's
really
really,
interesting. That's important to keep in mind for sure
yeah.
that we're only seeing, and that's any reality show, right? If
Yes.
you're a fan of reality, you know that. Like just as
Yeah.
people that aren't, that's always their thing to say, like, well, it's scripted or whatever. It's like, well,
Right.
yeah, okay. To a certain extent, what they're showing is selective.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So you have to keep
Yeah.
that in mind. But and at the end of the day, like I said, they are still very compatible. They're
Yeah.
definitely still very compatible. I just don't think in terms of long-term relationship that
Hmm.
has every key component that's going to be the satisfying one that makes it the long run.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, okay, so Daisy. I mean, what you said about Daisy, honestly, so we've been struggling with Daisy, I think, because we feel it's hard to kind of place her personality. Like one day
Yeah.
she's super sweet, the next day she's kind of like make out with me, Joey, and
Spicy.
like yeah, a little
Yeah.
spicy.
Uh-huh.
Or like
You know,
forced, like
there
in the last
yeah,
Yeah.
episode.
it seems a little forced.
Yeah.
We're learning that she has some outside endeavors that make us question if she's there for the right reasons. He's really infatuated with her. So
Yes.
you said you thought she was the least compatible. Pretty
Mhm.
much everyone who's watching the show has pegged Daisy as the winner
Hmm.
because he seems really into her and production is pushing her story really hard.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, but now I think like your analysis of her star sign gives us like another piece to that, like an
Yeah.
objective component. So
Yes.
like it's really interesting to hear that you said, gosh, like hold on, remind me again. So not compatible because she may not be decisive, right? So that's a component.
Yeah,
And then
indecisiveness.
uh
I mean, just at their core, like thinking about a
yeah,
couple that's together every day. The Virgo is
yeah,
someone who needs consistency, who needs stability, who
yes.
is
And
not a
he
very spontaneous
mhm,
person. But also, what you're saying, I just want to say about her, like kind of switching it up, that kind of makes sense too. So, Virgos, we are people pleasers. We will definitely we can put on like to like an extent, as we need to. And really, like, it's not like fooling people. It's just we know the social masks like
you're
that we
good
need
at
to
it.
wear.
Yeah.
So it can come off as fake whenever then that kind of gets like switched up. So I can only imagine being put in this kind of situation. A Virgo, we want to perform. We want to be the best at everything that we do. There could be a strong component of it that she wants to win. And one thing about Virgos is we're going to make you fall in love with us, like definitely.
Ah.
So that is like I'm not surprised to hear she's doing a great job at
Yep.
that. And like, pulling that out like better than the other two are
It's
because we like
working.
to win. We like to be in control. She's
Yes.
clearly doing that.
Control.
Yeah, also not surprised to hear about potential ulterior motives because Virgos are earth signs, which some can read as being materialistic, but we're very success and even money motivated people. That's where kind of the need for stability, for a strong foundation comes
Hmm.
from. Like we're
Yeah.
gonna make sure we have that for ourselves, apart from even relying on it in another person. So there's definitely a
So
strong level of
interesting.
self-sufficiency there. So I'm definitely
Yes.
not surprised to hear that or that she's kind of coming out on top because
Yeah.
she's trying to win, like definitely,
Yeah.
maybe even more so than the other two.
Oh my
Yes.
gosh.
This
This
is
makes so much
crazy. It
sense.
makes so much sense. And actually, our guest from a couple weeks ago, Elizabeth
One
One of the things she didn't like about Daisy was she felt she was like kind of a controller. Like she wanted to be
Mhm.
in control of the
Yeah.
situation. And she's
Hmm.
like, oh, Daisy's upset because she's not in control of
Yeah.
this. It's not
Mhm.
her choice choosing him. He
Hmm.
has to
Right.
choose her. And
Hmm.
it
Yeah.
she perceived it as like she doesn't like that. And I was just like, that's interesting. But now that you're saying that, I'm like, well, that makes
Yeah.
more sense now.
And
That
her
is
being
so
like sexual in that
interesting.
way, like you said, like you were like, oh, and she was doing this. So we're known for being like closet freaks, Virgos, like with the people that we
Yeah.
choose to be with. But again, it's all about control. We
Yeah.
have to be in control of the situation. Typically,
Um,
we want to be the aggressor or the initiator of the situation, and that makes us happy. And that's then where we can feel more like, okay, we can
Yeah.
let our hair down a little bit. We can be a little bit more spontaneous and carefree. When that control is taken away, definitely you're going to see that mood shift potentially
Mm,
too and that
wow.
kind of other side coming out.
Yeah. Because I feel like Daisy does feel like she has this in the bag. Like, do you think so, Arena? I feel like she's kind of like, because like she
yeah.
doesn't in the last episode, I didn't really get that sense that she's like nervous that he has a stronger connection with,
Yes.
or like
She's not at
she
all.
didn't really feel like, oh God, what if he doesn't choose me? She was kind
She's
of like, this is a
not.
fun experience.
She's
Like,
not at nervous. Like when she was in the beginning of the episode, she's walking and they show her in the hammock and she's just hanging out. Like, this
where
is
the
a
other
nice
ones are like staring at the
vacation.
ocean.
Yeah. Like
Yeah.
she's just like cool and calm and collected and
Yes.
and it's so different from Kelsey, who at first is like, okay, like I'm
She's
fine, and
like,
then gets freaked out by the end of the episode. And then
mhm,
Rachel, who the whole time is just really anxious and just not her regular chill
really
self
in her
because she
head. Yeah.
knows her relationship. I think her intuition is telling her, you're not in that place, like you said, as the other women are. But yeah, Daisy's just like, I'm happy to be here. This is just a great
She's like, this
experience.
has
Oh,
been fun.
and
Like
then
she
she
thinks
tells
so.
him, thank you so much. I appreciate you so much. Like in this
Yeah.
experience. Like I've grown so much from it and you've really helped
You've
me. Like,
changed
and it's
me.
like all these things like, thank you for doing this and doing this. Not, I love you so much. I can't live without you. I want to scream
Yeah.
it from
Or
the
like, I don't want
rooftop
to
like
live without
Kelsey.
you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so the Virgos, like we don't need anyone. First of all, I would say that's like at our core, like that's never
Yeah.
how the Virgo is going to like communicate. And our love language is definitely acts of service. So I'm not surprised to hear that's what she was saying to him. Like she's
Okay.
picking up those things, saying that she's appreciative of these kind of like task oriented things. That's
Mm.
so Virgo, like
She,
very earth sign oriented, like grounded in real tangible things, as opposed to the fire sign, the Aries, who's going to be very much more driven by emotion, a lot more quick to
mhm.
get upset and
Kelsey, she
emotional and lose
switched on
her
it.
cool.
Yes. Oh
Yeah.
my
And
God.
then the
This is crazy.
what's her name? Who's the
Kelsey.
Aquarius? I forget
Rachel.
her. Rachel, she's more likely to get in her head. And that's like you're saying, that's exactly what happened and become paralyzed by that anxiety. That's the air sign. That's the cerebral aspect of
This is
that.
everything. Oh
This
my
is
gosh.
literally amazing, Natalie.
Yes.
Thank you so much for joining us. Seriously, this is
No,
so
this
good.
is so much fun. We need to do this with other
I
reality
know,
shows. This is so much
I
fun.
know. Well,
Yeah.
like
Oh.
it's just so interesting because like I'm not really into star signs, but I was like, this is a cool thing to do because I haven't really seen them do much of this with like The Bachelor. And I just feel like it's like, why not? You know, if we're gonna pick someone, like I would love, I mean, they should have somebody on the show, like go get your palm
Mhm.
read or
That would
something.
be fun.
That would
It
be
would be fun, but it
cool.
may
Help the
influence how people behave too. That may
so
be like
true.
they don't, want to do that because it may influence how people behave. But I would not be surprised if, especially from what you're saying, if Daisy ends up winning it, if she totally wins him over and
Right.
wins it, I don't know
Yeah.
about the longevity of their relationship then, that he's going to
Mm.
actually, the Gemini man is going to want to be controlled to the extent that she's going to
Mm,
need to feel
yeah.
secure and safe like herself.
Yeah.
Another thing I just wanted to add, like when you said is something about like that she's an earth sign, like
Mm,
Daisy, and she needs
yes.
control. She likes acts of service. There was an episode, it was a few episodes back, where she actually asked him for a foot rub
Oh
during a
yeah.
group date. And he got the lotion out and like did a
Sorry,
foot rub.
Totally fine with it.
No
Didn't
one
even
does
yes.
bat
that
an eye.
stuff. Like
Yeah.
she was just like, oh, my feet hurt. Here you go. And like that was another thing where like where did that come from, Daisy? Like she's usually like, oh, like, haha, you know, and then all of a
Yeah.
sudden it's like, I need a foot rub. You gonna do it? And it's like,
It's so
oh,
funny.
it
And
was
that was
so
almost,
funny.
that was probably a little test for her too, because we
Yes,
do value
he
acts
did
of
it.
service so much.
Mm-hmm.
She wanted to see if he would do it. And that would be really, really important to her. That could be like arguably as important as him saying something of like intense endearment. Like to us
Yeah,
Virgos, we want to see your behavior.
so true.
And we'll do the
Wow,
same
it's so
thing. Like she's not
interesting.
going to maybe be the type to be lovey-dovey and say all of the cheesy things. That's not how we are. Like we're about showing affection through our acts of service, doing things, even just nice little things for you.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's how Virgos show that they care about people.
Mm.
Has she done anything like that for him?
Like
Like,
nice
has she
things for
given him
him.
anything? Or, I mean,
I
she does check in with him verbally. Like, how are you
does.
doing?
And I feel like when they went to her hometown, for her, I think that was her act of service to show him like a
Show
nice
him
time at the
around.
Christmas tree farm and this is
Yeah.
Yeah.
how beautiful it is. Let's go for a little
They
hayride and
got
all
hot
these things.
cocoa.
Yeah, hot cocoa and the experience, and he just loved it. He was, just like it was
Yeah.
Yeah.
everything.
Virgos are very thoughtful too. We're very
Mm,
thoughtful. So like anything like that, like we're
yeah.
definitely putting a lot of thought into it, and that like means a lot to
That's
us.
so
So
interesting.
that definitely fits.
Oh.
So I'm gonna throw. Do you think we can go on to like a little bit deeper of the predictions? I'm gonna tell you something that's going on. Is that okay?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So our last episode, we see Kelsey, who is our Aries. You
Yes,
picked her number one. She
I
writes
did.
a note to Joey that says, "We need to talk."
Mm-hmm.
Oh
What
no.
do we think is gonna happen here?
No.
Oh my goodness. It could
Like
be
Any
nothing though,
idea what
right?
that
don't
could
make me
mean,
walk
Natalie?
back what I said, Kelsey.
It could be nothing though, right? Like it could
It
just
could
be they could
be
be
just her
blowing
in
it out
her
of proportion on the
head.
show, right?
Yeah.
But don't you think,
Yeah.
Julia, as an Aries, that's so very Aries, like wanting to talk about it right away, like whatever
Yeah.
it is, just wanting to like get through, like not wanting to deal with negative emotions and wanting to like
Right.
work through them. I think that's very Aries, but that's going to be
Yeah.
another one of those things. Like, is he going to be able to deal with some of those more emotional tendencies that the Aries
Yeah.
has? That he's not going to be able to just like get annoyed with it and be like, oh, I don't want to deal with this right now. Like the Gemini
Right.
man might be, might have a tendency to do. He's going to have to put up with those more. If he's going to be with the Aries woman, he's going to have to put up with that more emotional component of her
Right.
personality where she kind of needs
Mhm.
that like level of talking
Yeah.
about things and attention.
And I think in a teaser for next episode, it does show them having like a very deep talk
Mhm.
about it. So I'm hoping he keeps her there or like she stays,
I
but
hope she
I'm
stays.
scared she's gonna try or like leave. And then Daisy's gonna so this is my theory. I've been talking about this for I think that Kelsey may like actually leave or like start to leave, and then
Really?
Daisy finds out and is like, well, I don't want to be the like last person just because I'm
I know.
here, you
Yeah.
know? Because
No, that's true.
we think that it's going to be Daisy and Kelsey. We
Yeah.
think Rachel's probably going home
Yeah.
tomorrow, which sucks.
Mm.
But yeah. So then I'm like, oh my God, is Daisy going to leave? Because she doesn't want, like, she completely loses control if that's the case,
Mm.
right? Because it's not even him picking her, really.
I fully agree with you that, yeah, Daisy is not going to want to win in that manner.
Yeah.
That's not going to be
No,
satisfying for her as a Virgo.
no.
Definitely not. Like a shoe in because of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
But I'm
So
hoping
hopefully that
Kelsey
doesn't happen.
stays. I
And do
know.
you
I
think,
know.
like, for Daisy, if it came down to it and for some reason she felt like, let's say, it is Kelsey and Daisy at the end, and Daisy's feeling kind of like, I don't know if it's me, do you think she would be the type that would be like, reject him first so she's not rejected? Or would it not matter
Yeah.
to her?
Yeah, Virgos definitely do not like rejection at all. It's not something that we are comfortable with. So I
Right.
would say definitely that is a Virgo tendency to be the one that leaves as opposed to being left and trying to be perceptive of like whether or not it's looking like a breakup is coming, or whatever, and
Yeah.
trying to get out ahead of
Yeah.
that. I do think that's probably fair. But I don't know the tendency to which people actually do that on the show. Like, do they tend to leave? Like if they know they're gonna lose?
Yeah.
I don't know. I know people have left and like self-eliminated, but I
Yeah.
Yeah.
don't
Not
know
this stage,
this,
I don't
yeah, not at
think.
this
Yeah.
stage. I don't think that
Maybe
happens.
the
It's
top
like,
like 4 or 5.
yeah,
Yeah.
top four, like Serena did on her season with Matt James. She
Yeah.
self-eliminated at the top four. But yeah, when it gets to this point where it's about to be a proposal to one of two people, I don't think anyone's ever done that. So,
If yeah, if anything, it's usually the lead will break up with the person
yeah,
before the rose ceremony,
yeah, which
Okay.
is
where it's
also
like,
rare,
hey,
but
I'm not
happens.
in love with you.
Yeah,
And then
Okay.
they'll leave, and then it's one person. And it's like, oh, go to the rose ceremony. Who's he gonna give the rose to? It's like we all know.
yeah,
But it's still nice. They still
Yeah.
do the whole shebang, even if it's
yeah,
only one person.
yeah.
Yeah. I
So
wouldn't be surprised if Kelsey left, if she felt like the emotions just
No.
became too much
I
for
hope
her.
not.
Just because again, that is I mean, Aries like are
Yeah.
very strong. They're fighters. They're not people that give up easily, but they also are not people that like to be rejected either. I mean, not that
Yeah.
anyone does, but the
Mhm.
Aries sign doesn't take it well at all and would tend to be like deeper in their emotions about it. So I could see maybe that if she truly felt she wasn't going to win, that she would rather give up than have to go through the embarrassment of, not being selected. But I also see the Aries female as not being easy to give up at all. So I feel
Yeah.
like if I feel like she can be strong and want to fight and stick it out
Yeah,
too.
I think
Kelsey.
so too. Yeah, I think that she may do all this, not like for show, but I think she
Yeah.
may, like what you said, Natalie, like just need to get the emotions out to
Mhm.
get that reassurance to be
Yeah.
strong again to continue.
Yeah.
Because I just feel like she would keep trying. I don't think Kelsey will really give up at this point just
Yeah.
because a little bit insecurity. Because like
Right.
at her hometowns, she talked to her dad about it and they were like, you gotta just do, and she even said like, I'm gonna do everything I can. If he doesn't choose me,
Mhm.
I'm at peace with that, but I'm gonna
Yeah.
do like, I'm gonna stick it out. I'm gonna show him that I care. And like, I feel like she has that potential, but like, I don't know, this last episode, the Leslie, the runner up from the Golden Bachelorette or Golden Bachelor, really got in her head. She was
But
like,
then
yeah,
Oh
it was
it
just,
no.
probably was
yeah,
already
she got
kind
in
of
her head.
in her, even though I know Leslie planted
Yes.
that in her head. I'm sure Kelsey was already kind of like, I don't know. But like, I do hope Kelsey just sticks through it and keeps fighting because I really feel like you even said so yourself, Natalie. Like, she's the top most compatible, and we both think
Yes.
Kelsey is the
We think that
one.
too.
Well, we think she should be the one.
Yeah.
I mean,
But he
no
has
offense
this,
to anyone else.
yeah, but he
But
really has this like adoration for
yes,
Daisy.
for
Like
Daisy,
he's,
it's
Mhm.
it is.
there's
Yes.
definitely something very much there.
Yeah,
And it's almost to the point
it's
where we're
very
like,
much.
whoa, like that's a
Mhm.
really intense feeling.
More so
But
than
with Kelsey, it
Kelsey
seems more like
sometimes.
everyday real. Yeah.
Yeah, like with
Yeah.
Kelsey, because even with their one-on-one date or their fantasy suite date in the night portion with Daisy, Joey offered the information to her that he's falling in love with her. With Kelsey, she had to say first, I'm in love with you. And then he was like, oh, I'm falling in love with you. It's been this way for weeks. And he said all these
Uh-huh.
beautiful things. So he believes it. I know he believes it.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of like, why did he have to wait for Kelsey to do that? Or was it just timing? And it happens. That's how it
Yeah.
worked. And with Daisy, he was like, oh, I need to tell
Right
you now.
away.
I'm
And
falling in love.
interestingly, Kelsey said, I love you. He
Yes.
said, I'm falling in love with you. Because he's
Yes.
careful.
Yeah.
I think we think
Understandably.
he's really
Mhm.
in love with her. But
Yeah.
with Daisy, he said, I'm falling in love with you. And she goes, I'm falling in love with you. She didn't say,
Yeah.
I love you.
And he
Which
So
is
stood
very
after that.
Virgo. Again, that's very Virgo. We are not gonna, we
keep
are
your
hold the
cards
cards close
close,
to chest.
right? Yeah.
Exactly. She is definitely, I'm not surprised to hear that at all, that she would
Yeah.
not fully disclose and say, I love you. And like I said too, we're not very lovey-dovey people, earth
Uh-huh.
signs. It doesn't mean that we don't feel those deep emotions, but we express them differently. So
Mhm.
if he probably even picked up on the fact that I gotta say this to her first, if
Yeah.
I really want to get it out there and see how she feels,
Yeah.
because she's not going to just like readily tell me. And I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
maybe that level of mystery too is maybe pulling him in more as
Yes.
I
well.
think so
Yes,
too.
because it took a while for her to even say that she was falling in love with him. And in previous episode where they had their second one-on-one, she was like, I'm not going to say that I'm in love with him if I'm not really feeling it just to get a rose. Like it's like this whole time I almost feel like she's been like da da da, and he's been like, "Ugh, I just really,
He's
I
like,
just,
please.
and she's been like, I'm not gonna say it unless.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, 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 nothing
Yeah.
wrong with that though, too. In the real world, like we've discussed, that's totally normal. It's just on this
Yeah.
show, everything is
This
sped up.
world.
So it's kind of
Yeah.
like you gotta
And you
like lay it
have
out
to,
there.
yeah, you do.
Yeah.
And I think that she and Rachel are almost two sides of the
Yeah.
spectrum
Yeah.
They
because
are.
she is like barely doing anything and keeping
Yes.
his attention. And
Yeah.
Rachel is now, she hasn't done much, but
Yeah.
well, like she has, but it's been
Yeah.
slower. But now she's doing everything and it's just
Yeah.
not really,
It's just the
Yeah,
time.
she's ramping it up, and then you get into the like scary
Daisy's
territory of
ramping it
like
down.
you don't want
Yeah.
her to be doing too much for him to perceive her as like, oh, she's just doing too much, and he starts to like the other girl more because she's just
Yeah.
not seemingly not needing to
Yeah.
try as hard.
Yeah.
But I mean, she's
Yeah.
playing the game. Like I see the Virgo as being much better at playing the game than just earth signs in general would be because
Yeah.
we're just able to take emotion out of it easier. It doesn't mean it's
Mm.
not there, but
Mhm.
like she's playing a win too. So
Yeah.
she clearly knows what she's doing and she's not letting her emotions cloud her
Yeah.
behavior that
And
much.
again, she knows what she's doing. We don't know what her motive is. Maybe it is to
Right.
win his heart. Maybe it is to, get this like great following and take it back into
Yeah.
her
Get a
home life and
platform.
all her she has a book. She works and she has a singing interest in her life
Well,
and
she's
she's an
strategic.
influencer. She's
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
strategic. And then the other aspect, Natalie, is that they've been giving her this phenomenal edit. We've talked about
Yes.
it, but like we call it the
Yeah.
Bachelorette edit. So
Hmm.
like
Okay.
if she's Bachelorette
Oh,
already, they
okay.
know she has a great perception with
Hmm.
with the viewers.
Yep.
Okay.
And so like she could be playing all this for the Bachelorette title as well. Her opportunity to choose from 30 men who
She
she wants to
chooses. She's in
marry.
control.
So that
Yeah,
could be her end
that would
game.
be like the ultimate.
I know.
That would be the ultimate position of control for her,
I
sure. So
know.
like I would be so interested, like if she does win, to see
Mhm.
what it plays out into being, because
Yeah, I
that's a
was
good
just like,
hypothesis. I would think like especially with the book and everything else she has going on, it
Mhm.
seems like that would be a better goal for her
Yeah.
almost to try to land on the Bachelorette and use this as like a stepping stone. Like,
yeah,
oh, it'd be nice if this relationship worked out, but again, she's an earth sign. We're goal driven. We're driven by things we want to achieve. So it's
yeah.
like, yes, having a relationship is great, but it's not essential.
Yeah. And I think
Mm,
that's how she
so
feels. I think she
interesting.
would love to be with Joey. I think she does really like him, and I think she is falling in love with him, and she keeps saying how hot he is and she's attracted to him and everything. But like I don't know, like I feel like with Kelsey it's like she's very much like I just really want to be with him and I just love him so
Yeah.
I
much.
miss
And I
him.
just,
Yeah.
yes, miss him. I miss him so much. And with
Yeah.
Daisy, and like we've said, no knock to anyone here, Daisy just does care about him, but it is more like, I
Like,
don't
how does he
know,
serve
just,
her?
yeah. Like, she's not, I want to scream it from the rooftops. Like, that's not
Yeah.
her.
She's really not like that. No.
No. And Kelsey
Yeah.
is. And Kelsey
She's like
Yeah.
sweet, but it's like, I don't
she's
know.
nice. I think she's
Yeah.
nice.
She's nice.
Yeah.
I
She's a good
She
person,
seems like a nice person who
but
means
like
well
she
and
just
is
isn't seem as into
positive.
him as he is to her.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Just said
I
it.
think that's just saying I think it's very Virgo too. Like even if
So
that's
interesting.
not necessarily true, there is like you can literally see memes about this. Like if you follow astrology accounts, that Virgos tend to seek out people that are more into us than we are into them. And again, it's about control. It's really just control. It doesn't mean that
Wow.
there's not those feelings there,
Yeah.
but you also like the Virgo woman doesn't want to feel out of control of her emotions either and be in the spot that Kelsey's in and be like, I miss him so much and I'm dying because he's not here. Like the Virgo woman does not want to feel that way. That's not a
No.
positive feeling. That's like, I'm now dependent on someone else to some extent, for my happiness. And, at the very least, even if she's feeling that way, she's probably not going to say that out loud.
So
Yeah.
true.
Oh my gosh. This is so
This is so
amazing,
good.
Natalie. Like,
Yeah.
I am just like, you were so right on with
You really were.
each
We can't believe
person.
it.
It's like, oh my gosh. And this is why I was saying before, and like, I know that you mentioned this, but I feel like there is something to these signs. There's something
Right.
to when we're born and who we are as people and how we may connect or seek out people, just not on purpose, but like intuitively, we're
Mhm.
drawn to certain types of people. And it's just really amazing, though. Like, just, it's so
So
wow.
interesting.
Like, I
I know.
can't.
This was
Yeah. And
like
I'll
so
also just say,
eye-opening.
like with Gemini and Virgo too, like how I mentioned that they're kind of opposing even in the zodiac. We know opposites attract though too.
Yeah.
So it's like
Good
even if they're
point.
not a good fit, they're still
Maybe
gonna like you.
that's
They're
what's
still
gonna
gonna be drawn to
happen.
each other,
Yeah.
potentially even more so,
Yeah. And
because
they
of that.
are, I think,
And like,
Yeah.
physically too. They're
yeah, and
really
if
drawn
they're
to each
so drawn to each other, maybe they can make it work.
other.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Oh, and that's certainly possible.
Yeah.
Like I said, like oftentimes people are not matching with someone of their same sign or in their same house.
Right.
So it's often someone who maybe it's not their sister sign, but it could be someone who's not technically compatible. And that's where it's helpful to know about astrology because you can look into all these things and figure out, oh, what do I maybe need to
Interesting.
work on versus the other person to actually make this work
Yeah.
long term.
Yeah, no, and I want to
Cool.
just like for our listeners and viewers, could we go a little bit more into so what is it that you mean when you say like in the same house? Like when you're talking about the signs, like they may be attracted to someone who's not in that.
Yeah. So you have your fire signs and your air signs and your water signs and your earth signs.
Oh,
So those would be
those are
like
the
the houses,
houses.
yeah, that they're
Oh,
in.
okay.
So like earth signs are really grounded. Like I said, we tend to maybe even be seen as more low empathy people, at least like how we come off. We're very motivated and tapped by goals and success,
Mm,
task oriented. Fire signs are very driven by emotion, but also behaviors in terms of being strong leaders, like ambitious, strong personalities as well. Air signs being more cerebral, being more, mental in their motives. Like I described them as eccentric also and quirky too. And then which one did I not say? Air sign, fire sign, or some water
water.
signs.
Water.
Water signs are like fully driven by their emotions, but they're also known as being the more chill signs typically too. So like a Virgo's sister sign, like perfect match is actually a Pisces because they really balance out all of our kind of like straight edgeness. They're like the most chill kind of
Interesting.
water sign. Yeah. So, but you're not often attracted to that person. So,
Yeah.
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 Oh, this has been so interesting,
Yeah,
Nat.
it really has.
Yeah.
I
I'm
loved hearing
glad.
this.
And I
Yeah,
hope
this
we
is
do this
exciting.
like again. Let's do this like every season that
I
we do and
know.
every
We
show that we
should.
cover.
I think the top three
Yeah,
is
no, we
perfect
definitely should. It
too.
was fun. And
Yeah.
I will keep in tune to the podcast so that
Yeah,
I
we'll
know what
keep you
happens.
Yeah.
posted.
Yeah,
And
because I can't
honestly,
wait to
I
hear what
think
happens.
it honestly just like confirms everything that we've thought,
Yes.
right, Arena? Like, I
Yeah.
feel like I'm more confident in like what we've been
Mm-hmm.
saying this past few episodes now that we're
Yeah.
getting deeper into the relationships. But I just am like, oh, yes, that is what we were thinking.
Makes
Like, that is
sense.
how it feels. So,
Yeah.
I guess we'll see what happens. Obviously, the stars will align for
Aligned.
anyone, right? It's up to the universe, but
Yeah.
like in the end, like if it does align in the way you described, like wow, like
Oh
I
my
think you may have
gosh.
gained a star sign girl over here because it's so
Oh.
interesting. May have to look into
Yes.
my moon sign and stuff.
I
So
know.
cool. I know.
Yeah, you have to let me.
You've always been like, oh, if you want to know more, and I'm like, it's so
I know. I
much,
feel like you have to
but
let me do your whole birth chart
Now
for you.
Julia's like, yes, you know.
maybe,
Just give all the
maybe for
info.
like my son, we can do our kids stuff.
Yeah.
Start there.
Yeah. No, that'll
So I know
definitely
how
be
to
fun to
handle
do
stuff.
our kids.
It will be
Yeah, that's
fun.
for sure.
Yeah.
Wow, so
All
this has been
right.
so great. Again, thank you so much for joining us, Natalie, on this episode of Bachelor Buzz podcast and talking
Yes.
about astrology and the signs of the last three, as well as Joey. And
Yeah.
we really do look forward, like Julia said, to see what happens and see how this all plays out because, like Julia was saying, like, you're definitely justifying everything that we've talked about and
Like
definitely makes sense
scary.
to us. Yes.
Yeah.
And plus, I think we're just really good at this, Julia. So,
I know.
I
Look at
Definitely.
that.
obviously.
Definitely.
So,
Yeah.
That's so
but
funny. No, I love it. And I think our listeners will also just love hearing. I mean, this is
yeah,
just so interesting learning about the
fascinating.
astrology aspect of it and
Yeah,
like what it is and how it can shape human behavior and relationships.
yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, if we can get their birthday or their birth times, we'll have to
Yeah.
do another episode. But
Yeah.
In the
but
I
this
future, maybe
know.
more
alone, I think gave
well
us a
known.
lot.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
we know we did get a lot out of it. I don't know if you've ever seen this. There's funny memes too about like if she asks you for your birth time, like run, So it's
yeah.
like they'll probably know. If you hit them up and ask them, they'll be like, "Oh no, they're trying to do my
I
birth
know,
chart.
right?
No
I know,
thanks."
right?
Oh my gosh, that'd be so cool though. But we'll see
So
in the
cool.
future as the show goes on, our show.
Mhm.
We'll get to a point
Yeah.
where
Yeah,
we
it was a lot of fun for
This
sure.
one's
Thank you
fun.
guys for having me.
of
Yeah,
course,
thank
thank
you.
you. All right,
And
guys. Thank you so much
I
for
think that's
joining
it for
us.
today.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right,
And
bye.
bye.
All right. Goodbye.